Hello, Dream Vacationers. I'm Cheri.
I'm Sarah.
And we want to tell you a little bit about our recent cruise to Alaska. So we get the questions all the time when guests are going to Alaska. What do I do? What should I see? What excursions should I book? So we want to tell you what our experience was, and like it or not, you can decide if that's a good fit for you and book it based on these recommendations. So we did book excursions through a couple different tour providers, and we'll explain each of those. And just so you know, there are other options other than the cruise line excursion. So the trip that we took was on the Radiance of the Seas. It's a Royal Caribbean ship, and we sailed from Vancouver to Seward. And that was a northbound itinerary. You could have the option to add on additional land packages up into Denali if you wanted to see more of Alaska with this particular itinerary, or you can do a southbound cruise as well. So every other week you have that option. And we did not do the land package with the cruise line, but we can tell you about our time in Vancouver and also on the ship. So we'll start with Vancouver. Sarah flew in 2 days early. I flew in 1 day early with my family. She was with her family, and I stayed at the Hyatt Regency Vancouver. Really liked that.
I stayed at the Metropolitan Hotel Vancouver. We like that as well. It's very nice.
They were actually only a couple blocks from each other, so that worked out really well, and really pretty close to the Canada place where your cruise ship will take off from. So it was a really good area downtown, felt safe, and it was very populated, easy to get taxis, and just get around, Ubers.
We pretty much walked around the whole time we were there.
We had some people do the hop on, hop off bus there, and that works really nice especially if you're there for a couple days. That can help you get around for probably a better price, but it's convenient, but also not convenient because you do have to wait on buses and follow schedules. So Ubers are definitely the easiest option for getting around. So when Sarah first got into town, you guys, you want to talk about your seaplane?
Oh yes, so we did the seaplane with the Capilano Suspension Bridge Park. So it was 2 parts. So you ride on a seaplane. So there's only 6 people, including the pilot. It's about a half-hour tour around Vancouver. It's very, very neat, very fun experience. I've never been on one, so that was awesome. And then you get a ticket for a bus, and it's probably like a 20-minute bus ride over to the Suspension Bridge Park, and you can, spend as much time as you want there. Which was very cool. A little scary going over the big suspension bridge, but it was very neat. They have ones where you climb up in the trees. Definitely worth doing, I would say. Definitely worth it. We also just walked around Vancouver. There's a park. It's a long walk. It took us longer than we thought to get there, so we definitely got our workout that day. But it was worth the walk. You can take an Uber as well. We Ubered back. We didn't want to walk back. But it was very cool. They had all the totem poles and different things like that to see there.
So when we got in, we decided to all go to Granville Island, and we Ubered there from our hotels, and we got there a little bit late in the day. There are some of the shops and vendors that stay open till 8, but a lot of them do close at 6. So we got there around 6, and everything was kind of shutting down. So Granville Island was a super cute area, open air market. Definitely would recommend going down there. There were also a lot of different craft stores, like beading stores and quilting and knitting stores. So that's really fun for our crafters. So we were able to get some food down there, but like I said, a lot of things were closed. So I'd say if you can plan to go to Granville Island, but do it a little earlier in the day, I think you'll have a better experience. We still really had fun walking around, and once you get to the island, you can walk around the whole island and visit all the shops, and you could really spend quite a bit of time there if you wanted to. It's really cool. The next day we did the seaplane. It was the same tour, but just a different day. We did end up with a plane that it was a little bigger. It had like probably 12 to 15 seats on it. So they do have a variety of aircrafts, but it was really cool. Taking off in the water and just flying around. A lot of pretty scenery to see that we would never have seen had we just stayed downtown. So I really enjoyed seeing across the water and all the mansions and all the things you could see around Vancouver. So that was really a special experience for me. And I was with my husband and my two oldest kids, so they just loved it. It was really great. So the next day we got to board the cruise, and that's very easy to do in Canada Place. You can park there, you can just get dropped off there, and just an easy experience getting on the ship there. Our first day was at sea, and you really never know what you're going to get for Alaska. Typically, July is peak season for warm weather and animal sightings, so it is a great time to go. We happened to hit a week that was very foggy and rainy. So you gotta be flexible. You gotta know that is a possibility. This was my third time in Alaska, and my first 2 trips were beautiful and sunny. So this was kind of a new experience. That first day while we were sailing, it was extremely foggy. Like the ship had to blow its foghorn every few minutes because we could not see past the windows. It was completely fogged. But it was still a great time on the ship, enjoying, relaxing, so much to do on board. So that's not a bad thing. We just kind of missed out on the beautiful views that day. So just be willing to pivot, be willing to be flexible, and know that weather is a possibility on any trip you go on. Our first stop was in Juneau, and again, it was raining and foggy, and unfortunately both of our shore excursions got canceled.
Yes. The night before.
Well,
mine was the night before.
I didn't know till I got there and got off. So she had booked with Royal Caribbean. They advised her the day before, it's going to be too foggy.
It was too foggy for the helicopters to take off, because we booked my dream excursion. Helicopter to the glacier and dog sledding in the snow. But it got canceled. Royal Caribbean did help us rebook. They offered us a discount to rebook a new excursion. So we did end up booking something where we did get to see the dogs. It just wasn't in the snow. So we took a bus into the rainforest and met a bunch of dogs, and they had new puppies that were like 4 or 5 weeks old, and we got to hold those. And we did get to ride with the dogs. They pulled us on wheeled wagons through the rain and mud. So it was a good experience. Not the one I hoped for, but it was definitely worth it.
We had booked through Shore Excursion Group, one of our partner companies, a sea kayaking trip, and we were supposed to kayak in front of Mendenhall Glacier. It sounded really fun and adventurous. And again, the seas were really too rough for kayaking, and it was raining. So it did sound kind of like it would be an unpleasant experience had we gone and in the rain. So that part I was a little glad it got canceled. So they were real good to refund the money right away, and they had the same tour company that we were going to go with had other options that we could book. So they were still doing whale watching excursions. They gave us a little bit of a discount because it was a rainy day, and they were just hoping to get people on the tours. So that was a little bit of a bonus price-wise. The tour we went on was, I would say, very similar and a little different than if you had booked with Royal Caribbean, what you would have got. So we were with Shore Excursion Group, which does offer more economical options. So we took a school bus over to the port, and we had the driver on board narrated. She gave us a little tour of the town, told us all about Juneau and the Alaska people as we went to the port where the boats were taking off. But we were on a school bus, and everything was fine. We got there. We ended up being on the same vessel as the Royal Caribbean people, who probably paid an extra $100 at least per person for this excursion, but they rode a motor coach over. So they did have better transportation, but they paid more for it, and really we ended up on the same vessel. So the tour itself on the water was the same. It was cool that the boats were completely enclosed, but yet had windows, large windows that you could slide open or closed to take pictures and whatnot. It was raining, so I was really glad for an enclosed cabin. And they were just short little rows, and so pretty much all of your family could be together and have a window seat, so that part was nice. And then they did have an open air deck in the back that it wasn't raining real hard. Thankfully, Alaska rain that we experienced was not like Florida rain that we're used to, which is like downpour and you're just completely soaked. Pretty much the whole time it was just a light drizzle. So it wasn't really bad that it was raining. So you could go outside and take pictures and enjoy too. But they really did navigate to the humpbacks. They did everything they could to communicate with all the other tour operators, all the other boats out there, to say we're seeing some in this area, and they really do help each other out, which was cool. So we saw quite a few humpbacks, mostly just their tails. We did end up seeing a fluke a little bit later, but nobody jumped out of the water for us. We were really hoping for that. But again, we did see them in their natural environment and learn a lot about them. And there are like celebrity humpbacks that come there every year, and they can tell which whale it is by their fluke. So that was pretty cool. Some friends of ours booked a Royal Caribbean excursion on a Jeep tour, and it was priced for 4 people in one Jeep. So they all shared the one Jeep, and they said they just navigated based on the narration, and it was just really a great excursion. They enjoyed that as well. So if you're looking for a more customizable tour, that was a great option. It kind of go at your own pace, and they learned a lot about the area. They got to see a lot of really cool things, and without a lot of, I would say, walking, or it was more of an easier trip physically. So it could be whatever you make it to be. So that's a really fun option if you're brave enough to drive in a city you don't live in. So but I think they really enjoyed that. And then
so my family did the Gold Belt Tram, just a little tram ride through the town, and they really enjoyed that. It's more if you're not very active and wanting to walk around or anything like that. So it's just a good, easy little trip.
In downtown Juneau, the ship did offer free shuttle from where the ship docks to the downtown area. It is very walkable. There's a lot of really, I'd say, good souvenir stores when you first get off, with lots of, if you're looking for a t-shirt or sweatshirt that says anything Alaska on it, they just had a ton of options. So I was really happy with being able to get a shirt that I really liked versus just kind of a typical souvenir shirt. Right. So they had a lot of really cool options, lots of jewelry stores and lots of other souvenir shops. We did encounter some that had souvenirs where you could buy jewelry and maybe some, like they had knives and
a lot of knives, and odd as it was, animal bones. That was a big thing in that area.
Yeah.
I remember there was skulls and stuff. It was a little different.
Yeah, but if you want an authentic Alaska souvenir, those were available. Yes. So again, if you just want to not book an excursion and just want to walk around, Juneau is a good option, for a good port for that option. And Sarah got to try something a little fun while she was downtown.
Yes. We went to the Red Onion Saloon and had a duck fart. It's definitely worth it. It's a shot. It's got Bailey's, Kahlua, and whiskey. They talked about it on board the ship and said it was something you have to try. So my husband and I decided to try it, and we were happy we did. So definitely go to the Red Onion Saloon.
So you can't eat there. There was quite a line to get in, but it is kind of the famous landmark downtown. Again, it's right downtown, so if you want to go check it out, it's easy to do. So then the next day, we went to Icy Strait Point, and this is it's kind of a port built for cruise ships. We saw like a Regent ship was docked there. We saw a Norwegian dock there later in the week. So it's an adventure port It's probably the best way to explain it. So they have a lot of more active adventures that you can book there. And then they also have a walkway, and you can walk and see the old canning factory, with some shops and more souvenirs. But what we did was we booked they call it the world's largest zip line. I don't know if that means because it has 6 people, or the length and the height.
It's like a mile long.
Yeah. So it's about 90 seconds down, and about half our group was really excited, and the other half was not so much, crying on the way up. So
that was me. I admit it. It was really high.
It was really high. So you take one gondola up to the meeting point, and then you take another gondola up pretty high into the mountain. And the zip line does start quite a bit. It's quite a bit off the ground. But it's a 6-person zip line. As far as zip lines go, it's very easy. You just sit in a chair, hold on, and ride. You don't have to stop yourself. You don't have to brake, nothing. So that part is what attracted me, because I've done the zip lining before where you have to brake using your hand, and you're like,
that's scary.
No, I'm not ever doing that again. Yeah. So I was like, I can ride this down, no problem.
Sure.
So it's all well. Of course, again, it is a rainy, foggy day. So, and when we first got up to the top, we couldn't even see the ship. I mean, there's just so much fog. So then by the time we sat down, the fog lifted enough to at least see the ship, and you could see the end of the zip line, sort of. You could guess that it was there.
It's a mile away.
Yeah.
How far can you see?
So we start going down, and the first like
drop
20 seconds, man,
terrifying.
It goes real fast. And so then finally your body kind of adjusts to it, and you're like, okay, I can open my eyes.
Yeah. But you're wearing goggles because it's raining.
Yeah.
So it's just sharp rain hitting your face.
Yes. So I would say this would be a completely different experience had it not been raining. But it was raining, and the rain, like she said, hitting your face was so painful.
Made it unpleasant.
Yeah. That it almost took away a lot of the fun of it. So I would say if you book this excursion and you get there and it's raining,
just be prepared.
Be prepared. And I don't know, if you have like a ski mask to cover your face, that would be recommended. Yes. Definitely make sure they give you the goggles. Our friend went like an hour before us, and he's like, they never offered me goggles. I'm like, oh no, that would have been even worse. So they do have goggles available. So we went down, and all in all, I mean, I was really glad I did it.
Yeah, me too.
Sarah conquered her fears and did it. And like I said, my husband is afraid of heights, so he was kind of like, but he did it. So he was glad he did. So I would recommend this excursion. I would really recommend it when it's not raining.
Yes. And a trick we learned, because I went down sideways the whole way. And then when we got to the bottom, my husband was like, if you put your arms out and just move them, it will turn you. So you can face forward. Because I watched sideways all the way down.
I went down sideways too. And so I'm like, why didn't I know about that before I left? But we were probably like this anyways.
I wasn't going to let go.
Yeah.
So.
I tried to video it. It's a real stellar job I did videoing this. And maybe I can put a clip on here. But it was really fun. I did wear a lanyard kind of meant for the ocean with my phone in there. So it was attached and it was not affected by the rain. So that's a good thing to bring. You don't think you need it in Alaska, but I did use it quite a few times on our rainy excursions, even with the waterproof phone. Here we go! Just better to have it around my neck so it doesn't fall off a boat or a zip line. So okay, so then coming back, you saw a lot of really cool animals.
I know, the jellyfish were huge, giant and orange jellyfish, and purple and red and white starfish that were probably this big. Hard to tell because we were up on a bridge, but I'd say they're probably like this big. In Florida, they're like this. That's what I see. So it was pretty awesome to see those.
That was very cool.
And all the different colors.
And I think there were some like hiking excursions, or if you just want to go up to the top, you can just book the gondola and just ride up to the top for the views. But definitely this port, pretty much everything you do, you'd have to book it through your cruise line because they do cater to that at this port. So the zip line, even though they do offer sales on their website during port days and port times when the ships are there, you have to get it through the cruise line. So okay, so then the next stop was Sitka, and this was my first time in Sitka, so I was excited to see what it was all like. And we had a couple really good recommendations from a couple different cruisers of ours that said this particular excursion was the best one they've ever done, with the best food. So we went in with really high expectations, especially for the food.
Yeah.
So they take you over to this place called Finn Island Lodge, and they have meat dishes like brisket. I think, do they have brisket or steak?
Probably brisket.
Brisket.
Yeah, I think brisket.
Crab legs, salmon.
Soup?
Salmon chowder. That part was really good. So it's kind of all you can eat, and they have dessert, and then you can go outside the lodge and they have s'mores. They'll light a fire for you. Even in the sprinkly rain, they managed to get that going for us. And you just get to spend a little time on the shore there. So it's basically, they call it a lodge. It kind of looks like a dining hall.
Yeah.
And then we went on a marine expedition. So we had booked the one where we're going to be on Zodiacs. The waters were a little rough for that, so they had us on still a Zodiac-ish vessel, but not as low to the water, which again, I guess that's a good idea.
Yeah.
They give you these really stylish, do you call them wetsuits?
It's more than wetsuits. It's like giant
like
rubber
rain gear, rubber rain
coat.
gear.
It was massive.
Yeah.
You basically putting on 20 pounds.
Yeah. Plus your life vest you have to wear. Yes. And we looked so cool. So it really made for some great photos.
Yes.
So after we ate, they took us out on our marine expedition. And again, they looked for the humpback whales. And we saw this whole, what do they call the otters family?
Was it a family?
Well, we saw a ton of otters.
Like 30 or so.
But they had a word for their group. I forget what it's called now. Sorry. But they said that mainly the females will all hang together and the males all hang together for most of the year. So there was probably like 50 of them, I would say. It was a big group of otters. So that was really cute. Yeah. They kind of swam towards us and their little faces were so cute. So that was enjoyable. We saw some sea lions on a little buoy and
the whales.
Whales. We did see whales. We did see a fluke that day. Yeah. So that was good.
That's cool.
So that was cool. I mean, they did a great job on the marine expedition side of it. There are options to book this same tour, but not in a Zodiac and just on a covered boat. So if you want to experience this, but aren't really into being low to the water, then there were other options. And I don't think they made that group put on the outfits.
Probably not.
Because they were covered in the boat.
No rain splash or water splash.
So, but very cool. I would still recommend it. I would say the food was good. It just wasn't amazing. Like I had these high expectations for. And we ended up eating our lunch at like 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock, yeah.
And some excursions ate lunch before that. So pay attention to your times, and if it is an earlier excursion, don't fill up with breakfast. Wait and eat there. Yes. So keep that in mind. That was booked through Royal Caribbean. again, I did look for that excursion elsewhere, and they really only contract with the cruise lines during cruise times. The price varied. Sarah had booked it early on, and I think it was like $250 a person.
Yeah.
And then I didn't book it right away.
Slacker.
And then it went up to like $350 a person. I'm like, I'm not doing that for 4 people. So I literally watched this excursion pretty frequently for months, 6 months at least. Yeah. And it finally dropped back down and had availability. So I was like, okay, I'm booking it. So don't give up hope. People cancel and book all year long. So if your favorite thing is booked, just keep checking and just keep checking for a sale and all of that. So our next stop was in Skagway. And you want to talk about what you did first?
Yes, so we booked through Royal Caribbean and we did the Wilderness Kayak Experience at Chilkoot Lake. So we took the ferry from Skagway to Haines. I'd say it was probably a 45-minute ferry ride. It was narrated a lot of the time. They would tell you what we're seeing along the way. So that was pretty cool. It was covered. It was raining the whole time, so I was happy to be indoor in the ferry. And then when we got there was a little bit of a bus ride. They kind of drove you around Haines, kind of like a little small town, probably 20 minutes or so to where we were going to kayak. And again, you put on like rain gear, not quite as heavy, but multiple layers because it was raining the whole time. And then you've got the skirt for the kayak so that you don't get water in it. Then they put you in your kayak. It was 2-person kayaks, and then they push it out into the rain, into the cold. It was definitely very beautiful. I think probably without the rain it would have been a lot better experience for sure. But I did enjoy it. It was beautiful. It was cold and the water was probably in the 40s, so don't tip your kayak because that wouldn't be fun. But all in all, I did enjoy it. Then you take a bus ride and it says there's a lunch included. It was kind of like they had a tent set up on the side of the road where they had sandwiches they made and some cookies they baked. So it was interesting. You could choose to eat under the tent or you can sit on the bus. We went under the tent and ate and watched the rain. And then you take the ferry ride back. So another 45-minute ride back. It was a good experience. The lunch was kind of odd, not what I expected. But it was worth it all in all.
Very good. I have actually done that same kayak trip 2 different times, my other 2 trips, and we didn't have rain, and it was gorgeous. So that's why I was like, oh, you got to do this excursion. It's so amazing. And the last time we did it, us and our friends and our guide were the only people on the entire lake. It was fantastic. I'm like, this is so peaceful, so beautiful. So it's definitely a good option. Again, rain makes things not as good, but you still have a great experience and you can laugh about it later. So I booked an excursion through Shore Excursion Group, and it was called the Yukon Dog Musher Adventure Tour. Passports were required for this. Many of the Skagway excursions require passports. So while you don't have to have a passport for some round trip Seattle cruises, you do have to have a passport for quite a few excursions in Skagway, so please keep that in mind. Of course, our cruise was left from Vancouver, so passports were required. Anyways, but we had to take the shuttle downtown, and you could walk it, but it was raining, so we opted for the $3 person shuttle, and it dropped us off right in front of this place we had to go. The tour company that it was booked with met inside like a general store, and they had a desk set up in there, and they operated their coming and goings through this little general store, and they were very helpful. And our guide was amazing. We were on a little mini bus with maybe like 15 people, and we went out into the Yukon, which does require crossing the border. So I didn't really know, I'm not so good about researching and reading what I'm booking. So this was all a surprise to me that it was like a 3-hour trip, 2.5, 3-hour trip to where we were going to get there. And then of course to get back. So really we left. along the way, we stopped at all these beautiful photographic places. If you're into photography, I'd say this is a winner. Lots of beautiful lakes. We saw an emerald lake, lots of beautiful mountain scenery, some historical sites with old mines and things like that. And they did have some bathroom stops along the way. And then our guide was just happy to take everybody's picture. So that was really cool. And then we got to the dog musher location, and we had a barbecue lunch, and that was good. And we got to see the dogs. So this dog experience was with real Iditarod dogs, same as Sarah's, but we weren't on a cart. We were being pulled by, we were like on an ATV that held about 10 people. So it was a real big ATV, and then the dogs were practicing in front of us, although assisted with the actual ATV power. So it was cool. We still got to see the dogs. I'd say it's a comfortable ride in the ATV, and it was quite the experience hearing all the dogs bark at each other. They get so excited
They love to run.
They're like, pick me,
so
pick
cool.
me, pick me. And so they'll go through, I mean, because there was probably, I don't know, at least 30, 40 dogs at my place.
Yeah, we had 16 pulling us.
Yeah.
I think there was
think we had
4
about-
different groups.
Yeah, we had about 10 pulling our sled, I believe. But they just love it. They live for
And
that.
they can't wait for them to say, go!
Yes. And the lady driving the ATV has run the Iditarod many years. So she was an experienced musher, and so that was really cool. I was just in the first row, so I was asking her questions the whole time, and she was so nice and friendly to tell us all about mushing. So that was cool. You do get to kind of pet some of the puppies later, and they had some llamas and some other animals at this place. So I wish we had a little bit more time at the musher location, but just based on the ship's hours, they were in port. We only had about an hour there to eat and to do the mushers, and then we drove back. But again, stopping at new places along the way back. We saw a bear on the side of the road, so that was really cool to see him in his natural environment. But it was a nice trip. You know, it was pleasant and beautiful, even though it was a long bus ride. I'd say I'd give it 2 thumbs up for just good photos and a fun time. So, all right, downtown Skagway. This is another port. If you just want to get off and shop around, you can definitely do that. It's walkable. The souvenir shops are pretty basic. A lot of jewelry stores, a lot of stuff you're gonna see also in the Caribbean. A lot of the stores are owned by the cruise ships. So it's just like the Caribbean, same stores.
Yeah.
So that is an option, but not real exciting as far as quality of shops. I'd say if you're looking for that t-shirt, get it in Juneau. And then our last day on the ship, our last day was a day at sea, and the skies opened up. They were blue again. The sun was shining. There was no rain. So this is our first beautiful day. And what a great day to get it as a beautiful day. The whole morning we were parked right outside Hubbard Glacier, and it was just great to be up on deck and see the glacier and look at the wildlife. We saw a couple cool birds and more otters.
There was more otters. There was a lot of sea lions on the ice.
Yeah.
Icebergs, I guess. Yeah.
So that was cool.
That was cool.
So we were just really thankful that it was sunny out. And we got good pictures because that's really important to scrapbookers. So, all right. And so then that brings us to our final day. We get to Seward. We have to somehow get to Anchorage. So, Sarah, you want to tell us about your day first?
Yes. So we chose to take the train from Seward to Anchorage, and the train doesn't leave until 6 p.m. So you have a whole day in Seward. There's a shuttle from the ship that takes you into the town. It's a free shuttle, and I think it actually had, 6 to 10 stops all throughout. So you can ride it, hop on, hop off, kind of just free. We did not book an excursion. We didn't book anything. And It's a long day in Seward if you don't book anything. So I definitely recommend booking something to do. There are some shops, but they're not great. You know, you go to a couple and you're like, okay, I'm done. They did have it's like an aquarium. We didn't go to that. We ended up not going to it, but there was an aquarium where you can see different animals. We walked to it, about a half an hour walk, but the shuttle would take you if you wanted to go and see that. So definitely book something because you can only look at so many souvenirs. They're all the same in all the different stores. So we did get on the train at 6, and it's about a 3.5 hour train ride, I'd say, to Anchorage, and that was fun. I've personally never been on a train before, so I was super excited about that. Big windows all throughout. There's one car where you can go and sit up top where it's all glass, you know, take turns looking. You're seeing glaciers and the mountains and the water and the snow. So definitely a beautiful ride. We saw a couple moose and some doll sheep standing on the top of a mountain. So that was pretty cool to see. So it was fun. It was a fun ride. And then we got to Anchorage like 10:30 at night and got on an Uber to the airport. So that was our day. Definitely book something in Seward. Don't just hang out because it's not exciting.
So I booked an excursion through Viator, and we had a group of 12 of us that were needing to get from Seward to Anchorage. They're all our friends. And so we ended up getting what they made for us into a private excursion. So it was nice just having the 12 of us and not other random people with us. Our guide was really nice. He was knowledgeable and friendly, and he was fun to hang out with. But they picked us right up at the terminal. They were very prompt on their pickup time. I appreciated that. They provided some water and snacks, and we had a couple stops on our way to Anchorage, so they really make a whole day out of it. Our flight didn't leave until late at night, so we had all day, and he would have gotten us back earlier if our flight left earlier, so he was very mindful of our flight times and got us to the airport in plenty of time. But we also, along the way, got to kill a lot of that time instead of sitting at the airport. So if you do book the cruise lines excursion, they're going to take your transfer. They're going to take you right to the airport, and you're probably going to sit at the airport for 8 or more hours. So this was a really nice alternative for about $150 a person. This ended up being, but well worth it. So we stopped at first the Kenai Fjords National Park and saw Exit Glacier. We hiked, I can't recall if he said it was a mile round trip, or I kind of felt like it was a mile each way. It is partly down a paved path and then partly walking over uneven pavements and rocks to get to the glacier. It was really fun. Probably not for everyone, but we had a friend with us wearing a walking boot, and she did it like a pro. So even with her injuries, she could do it. But if you do have trouble walking, I'd say you could get to a certain point and still see the glacier on the paved path. But to really get up closer to it, it was a fun hike through the rocks and whatnot to get to the picturesque point. So that was really fun. And then we stopped at the Alaska Wildlife Conservation Center. And a lot of cruise ships do stop here on their land tours. And it's a really cool area. It's 250 acres of kind of like a zoo, but more natural. It's not as pristine as a zoo would be, but it's very natural. And they do have quite a few animals there that, it was really neat to see them. All the big Alaska animals and wolves and deer and bear and all sorts. So that was really cool. We spent quite a bit of time there. Again, our guide was kind of like, he walked around with us and he didn't rush us, and that was cool. Then we stopped at this boardwalk area. It's a real birding area, so if you're hoping to see some really cool birds, you have a good chance in this boardwalk. We walked around. It's like a wildlife refuge area. So that was cool. And then we stopped at Beluga Point. He said it is pretty common to see belugas. We didn't see any on our trip, but quite a few of them do come in there. And we did get to look up on the mountains and see some sheep on the mountains, so that was cool. And he let us stop for lunch. Again, it was a private tour, so he said, okay, this is the town where most of the food is at, and just Google, tell me where you want to go. So we looked up on our phones what looked good, and he brought us there for lunch and just said, let us know when you're ready to go and we'll keep going. So it was a really great way to spend the day. We're so glad we did this instead of just sitting at the airport. So definitely a good option. But we hope that you enjoyed our little talk about Alaska, and we hope this gives you some good ideas of what you can do on your Alaska cruise. And if you are not yet booked on Alaska cruise, I would love to help you get booked with that. We'll put our contact information in the comments, and give us a call to book any cruise anywhere in the world. We'd love to be your travel specialists. All right, we hope you have a great day. Bye.
Bye.